exposing the leaders behind the video game AI strike, SAG-AFTRA's unhinged negotiating committee. This is some crazy, like, behind the scenes stuff. According to Mujin, there's a lot of Discord images and stuff and screenshots that have been from, you know, private conversations, which I don't know what happened. I don't know what we're gonna see during this video, but it's gonna be a lot of information, and hopefully after this we'll be a little bit more clarified on the whole thing that's happening between the Genshin VAs and SAG-AFTRA and all of that stuff. Let's check it out. Wait, actually the video is not fucking like high at all. Wait, there we go. Check it out.
About how a handful of entitled voice actors... When I made my video about how a handful of entitled voice actors ruined the SAG-AFTRA video game strike overnight, honestly, I was expecting not just them to hate me, but all the voice actors combined. Because this video didn't just talk about how a few voice actors were entitled and very annoying. It also criticized SAG-AFTRA, the union behind the strike, and their sometimes very weird, counterproductive behavior. And of course, I also criticized the strike itself, which was handled very poorly by SAG-AFTRA with minimal transparency, all while encouraging these entitled and unprofessional voice actors to continue doing what they're doing, which was ruining the reputation of all voice actors. That was until a few weeks after I uploaded that video, when a friend of mine reached out to me. This friend of mine in particular happens to know dozens of voice actors who voice for games like Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, Zenless Zone Zero, and many anime dubs. And they proceeded to tell me that these voice actors actually loved my video. But then, as I was shocked by the statement, they took it a step further, telling me that whenever a voice actor was confused about the strike, they would send them my video as the explanation, which I thought was crazy. Now, as you can imagine, I was blushing like a teenage girl who met their favorite K-pop idol. But that unfortunately didn't last long, because the morbid reality hit me in the face. Oh no. And that reality is the fact that there are voice actors paying $3,000 to join SAG-AFTRA, all while paying them a percentage of their yearly income to stay in the union. And SAG-AFTRA couldn't even do the bare minimum and explain to them the strike that they're in, to the point where these voice actors have to go to this dumbass's channel in order to understand what the hell's going on in a strike they're supposedly a part of. But as ridiculous as this already is, today things have gotten worse and the stakes have never been higher. US-based voice actors are being ditched in favor of overseas voice actors. Which is really sad, honestly, but hey, what can you do? Not budging, receiving the best, last, and final offer and stating that they were going to send yet another counteroffer, risking the entire industry. Every voice actor was shouting at the top of their lungs, "Please end the strike so we can get back to work. It's been 10 months. I'm about to be homeless." But SAG-AFTRA took a ridiculously long time to finally budge and only did so on June 9th, 2025. That's more than...
Wait. The voice actors wanted to get back to work, but they weren't allowed to because of their union?
1 month since receiving the final best and last offer. And you have to wonder why. Well, thanks to an anonymous source, we don't have to wonder anymore. I was given a series of messages from members of the negotiating committee of SAG-AFTRA, clearly stating multiple times that they had no intentions on ending the strike anytime soon. Here's an example of someone on the negotiating committee sending this message shortly after my video came out, saying, "We are in the middle of a bargaining session, but some outside parties have engaged in a campaign to influence performers and we need to address it. Please look for a link from SAG-AFTRA in the morning." And when they say campaign to influence performers, they mean, oh, someone is telling the performers the truth, which makes performers want to end the strike and get back to work. We need to address this. Even going as far as encouraging other voice actors in that private Discord to not vote yes on ending the strike if a vote is ever held. Yep, you heard that right. Someone who's meant to stay impartial for the sake of the greater good, influencing other people to change their vote. These same negotiating committee members are being celebrated right now for being able to finally end the strike, when in reality, they never had any intentions to do so. On Twitter, I hinted that a video like this is coming on the 11th. What followed quickly afterwards was the Discord going on lockdown. They're worried, and they should be. And if you thought this wasn't enough, SAG-AFTRA's website was inaccessible to anyone that didn't have a US-based IP. They're getting gradually more scared of outside influence, and when you watch this video, you'll understand why. So
that is insanity.
Well, without further ado, let's do this. But first, a sponsor that doesn't have an annoying mascot in their game. Nostalgia is a funny thing. You might have
Get
grown up
that
with video
fucking
games, but they
bag,
just
King.
don't
Get
hit the
that
same
bag.
anymore today. You look back at when League of Legends or World of Warcraft first launched, the excitement, the hype, the memories. But unfortunately, today nothing hits the same. Well, you're not the only one who thinks that. That's why a team of developers got together to develop Corepunk, a game that combines elements from the OG World of Warcraft
League and WoW.
League of Legends to create an
Crazy.
MMORPG with PvE and PvP elements. It's still in early access, but they just released a massive update.
Nah,
You can
looks
now
really
trade
good
gear
for
on a
early
global
access already.
marketplace with other players. A new class, the Defender, just came out, wielding a sword and a shield and bringing
Get
in
that bag,
class
King. Get
video.
that bag.
All right, so on July 26, 2024, the video game strike had begun. The main reason centered around it was AI protections for voice actors. But as we saw in my last video, the contract they want signed is pretty damn long and has way more than just AI protections. Like how, for example, they want to make it very hard to hire non-union actors, people who are not a part of SAG-AFTRA. And if you do, you need SAG-AFTRA's direct approval, which can take a long time. And even if they give it, there's a time limit as to how much the voice actor can work for you before they are forced to.
This is so stupid. The fact that you get forced to join the union after 30 days, like, that's wild.
Join the union. Seeing that all these demands were not straightforward at all, the strike was not making much progress even 8 months after they had started. One of the games that was most affected was Genshin Impact, since it's a live service game.
It's so sad that I used to love this game this much, and now it's gotten to the point where I'm literally looking at the stories and I'm like, I don't want to play this shit because it's not voiced. And even if it is voiced, it's like, well, the voice actors are going through this massive like strike and everything is horrible, and they
have a set schedule with set updates, which have voiced story missions. And little by little, you started seeing a lot of characters being muted. But hey, the community was fully supportive, even though their story content was not being voiced. They wanted voice actors to get what was best for them. And no one really questioned the strike. No one really pointed out how SAG-AFTRA was fighting against AI while signing agreements with AI companies at the same time. These things were not on anyone's radar until March 26, 2025, when Jacob Takanashi, a Japan-based voice actor who has nothing to do with SAG-AFTRA, took on the role of Kinich, a Genshin Impact character, from a striking voice actor who was not voicing the character for months. This resulted in a handful of very loud and unprofessional voice actors to attack him publicly, dogpiling, sometimes going as far as pocket watching him, saying that he had bought a house recently and calling that out, and other times being literally community noted. There was even one instance where a voice actor said, "Hey guys, I'm looking to recruit someone for a voice acting role, except that one guy," referring to Jacob Takanashi.
What is wrong with you?
It was later revealed that Jacob had no idea a strike was even going on, something that was very embarrassing for all these weird, unprofessional voice actors.
That is fucked up.
But of course, no one embarrassed themselves more than the voice actor behind Paimon, the character that talks the most in Genshin Impact. If I had to hire someone, to destroy the reputation of a strike, I would hire Corinna. Give Corinna a 6-figure salary, because I know Corinna will do an amazing job in this regard.
This was fucking freaky, bro.
This unhinged rant, calling everyone out and losing all community support, while also telling everyone that, oh, Paimon is still voiced actually because I'm handicapped. I need to pay medical bills. But this made everyone take a step back and think, wait, so you took on a job for money, right? So Jacob is doing it, what, for fun? He's doing it for money too. And this was one of many incidents highlighting how hypocritical Corinna and the other entitled voice actors were. Meanwhile, SAG-AFTRA, instead of denouncing this unprofessional behavior, decided to directly participate by tagging Hoyoverse's games on Twitter and telling them that they should discuss things. The final chapter of this incident was when Joe Zieha, a voice actor for Genshin Impact and many other things,
what a Chad. That video that he made, Chad,
made a video explaining the strike once and for all. And in it, around the 4-minute and 31-second mark, he said that Genshin Impact,
they have nothing to do with it,
Honkai Star Rail, and any game under Hoyoverse was not in any way, shape, or form part of the strike. These voice actors were striking in solidarity with the strike, but this was not part of the strike to begin with. This was the final nail in the coffin, especially for the Genshin Impact community. Not only was their support waning for the cause of these voice actors, but they just realized that this was never part of the strike. They missed out on voiced characters for nothing. This realization made these voice actors that participated in this very unprofessional behavior get flooded with hate comments. No matter what they posted, their reputation was permanently tarnished.
That bad.
So they all became refugees and permanently switched to Blue Sky. And that became, and I don't use this word lightly, their echo chamber. Here's why. Here's a voice actor who made a block list of anyone who disagrees with Corinna or any other entitled voice actor's opinion. If you don't know what a block list is on Blue Sky, I subscribe to this and it'll automatically block anyone who is on this list and anyone who gets added in the future. Thanks to this, the majority, if not all, of the entitled voice actors in question made this their main platform in which they retweet and spout the same things that they believe in. Most of them never admitted any wrongdoing. This was where we left off in the last video, but ever since then, many developments have occurred, which led us to the events of today, starting with a voice actor receiving threatening letters from SAG-AFTRA.
What?
Venti, the beloved femboy of Genshin Impact, is very important to the story. But here's the thing. He hadn't been in any story content for a very long time.
Yeah.
So when version 5.6 of Genshin Impact was announced recently at the end of April, people were extremely excited to not only meet him again, but go back to the starting area. People's happiness was cut short though when they realized, wait, is Venti even going to be voiced? This was an important question to ask. His voice actress, Erica Harlacher-Stone, is a known SAG-AFTRA member. She's part of the union.
Oh,
and seeing that
no.
other union members were striking Genshin Impact and other Hoyoverse games, even though they weren't a part of the strike, people assumed that she would be doing the same thing, until we realized she didn't even have a choice. On Erica's TikTok, a disgruntled fan left this comment saying, you know what, we'll figure things out for you. You clearly don't give a damn about us or the game. We will be demanding a recast, and I pray to God you lose this role. You don't deserve it. To which Erica replied with, bruh, I'm trying to come back. SAG-AFTRA has been sending threatening letters to us and it's been very complicated. I'm coming back soon. If it had been my choice, I would have been voicing the whole time. Sad face. Yeah, this goes deeper than you think. And I just want to take a second here to remind you that not all voice actors are like Karina. In fact, the majority isn't. The majority is like Erica. They just haven't said anything because they're scared of SAG-AFTRA, because then they risk getting kicked out of the union or shunned out of the industry.
What the fuck is wrong with Genshin? There's nothing wrong with Genshin. That's the point. That's the entire point of this video. There's nothing wrong with Genshin. There's nothing wrong with a lot of these voice actors. It's just SAG-AFTRA is being weird as shit, and most of these voice actors are also being weird as shit.
She was tired of losing opportunities, and she was tired of voice actors having their reputation get destroyed just because of a handful of very bad apples. One of her fans asked on TikTok, does this mean some of the other voice actors will be back in the 5.7 update?
Threatening letters.
To which she said, I think so. SAG-AFTRA has been sending threatening letters, so it's been very difficult to navigate, but they were rude to me and I'm sick of this shit, so lol. Again, doubling down on the idea that she's been receiving threatening letters from SAG and that she's sick of this strike. The comments then continued with her saying, thank you guys for loving Venti as much as I do. I'm so sorry the strike has sucked for everyone. We didn't even vote on it. That's a bombshell by itself, by the way. But hold on a second. Just for the sake of being objective here, there was a vote that was held at the end of September 2023. It was 98.32% in favor. That's how many people voted yes. However, the people who voted were only 27% of eligible voters.
What? So it's the US elections all over again. Dude, what do you mean 7%? What the fuck?
So the majority didn't even vote. Was that because SAG communicated this in a very bad way? It's a possibility. They usually give barely 2 to 3 days notice before an important meeting. But just keep this
2 to 3 days notice? Bro!
in mind. Erica probably means she wasn't notified. She had no idea, which is totally valid, especially with this union.
Dude, their entire life depends on these decisions, and you're gonna fucking just make them in 2 to 3 days? That's crazy.
I should probably take my own advice and shut the fuck up now, LMAO, but yeah, I'm really sorry for how dumb this has all been.
Wow.
So even though she's been speaking out very bravely to everyone about what's actually going on behind the scenes, she's of course still very concerned with the consequences she might face with SAG-AFTRA. They could, for example, kick her out of the union, and if she relies on union health insurance, then hey, say goodbye to that. Finally, a fan asked, hey, are you going to cover Venti's voice lines and everything you missed previously? And she said, yes, I will cover everything I missed. I'm literally so over this, LMAO. We got massively screwed over and I just want to get back to work.
Damn.
So of course, everything she said so far is like listening to someone in prison asking to be let out. But it of course also makes you wonder, wait, do other voice actors also feel the same way?
That's true.
Actually, yeah. At least the ones who aren't unhinged like Corinna. But bear in mind, these revelations of Erica came around the end of April, beginning of May. We're now in the beginning of June 2025. And the topic has shifted massively. It went from, oh, SAG-AFTRA is treating its voice actors like disposable toilet paper to, oh, SAG-AFTRA is literally about to make their entire profession go extinct because of how irresponsible they are. On May 5th, the Variety magazine reported video game companies released best and last offer to SAG-AFTRA addressing AI demands amid 9-month strike, exclusive. This is of course a very big deal. A best and last offer is exactly what it sounds like. It means the studios are saying this is the best we can do. We are not willing to change a single thing no matter what happens. You either take it or you leave it. So many voice actors were of course hopeful that this is finally going to end. I mean, it's not like SAG-AFTRA has a choice. If they refuse this and studios refuse to negotiate further, there will be no new contract negotiations until 2028. It will be like shooting yourself in the foot with a
2028? 2028?
shotgun. But more importantly, this best and final offer had exceeded everyone's expectations. Everyone's. And when I say everyone, I mean actual working voice actors. Everything in green was something that SAG-AFTRA was asking for, and it was granted. Everything in red is not granted.
What? What? It was granted. It was granted.
And everything in yellow is negotiable on a case-by-case basis. So one contract may have them, another one may not.
Dude.
But it's not outright refused like what's in the red. As you can see, this is a whole lot of green. It's actually very impressive.
It's
and again,
really
because
good.
of this, many voice actors were thinking, finally, like this is it, right? We can finally, after 10 months of striking, get back to work and earn some money, right? Well, no. The voice actor behind Capitano in Genshin Impact and many other anime characters in anime dubs tweeted this out a few weeks after this final offer was presented, saying all of SAG-AFTRA membership got to vote on the interactive strike authorization. And now, even after receiving the last, best, and final offer, SAG is saying they are still negotiating. No, you aren't. It's done. The deal is good. Now let us vote to end the strike.
I hate it when fucking companies cannot just read the room. It's been going on for almost a year now. Can we please stop? Dude, just because SAG-AFTRA wants more money does not mean that all the people that are working for you under that union are not required to actually fucking work. They also need a job. They also need income. What is this?
Someone replied with, they really don't want to make life easier, damn. To which this voice actor replied with, yes, and not real sure why at this point. We can't negotiate anymore. It's either this or no more union AAA video games. And he is not exaggerating in any way.
Damn.
If this doesn't work and they have to wait till 2028 to renegotiate, there will be no more unions for big budget video games in regards to anything performance related.
So they're basically just shooting themselves in the foot. Because right after that, right after they're going to go back to negotiations in 2028, there's no idea if these companies are going to say yes or no. Because during that time, those companies, those game companies, movie shows, TV shows, whatever, right? Those are still going to require voice actors. And since SAG-AFTRA is not open for like negotiations anymore, they're just going to move on to other people. They're gonna fucking move on to European voice actors. They're gonna move on to like Asian voice actors, fucking African voice actors, right? South American voice actors. They're not gonna fucking care about SAG-AFTRA anymore. And then after that, right? When it's 2028, they're just gonna give them the fat fucking middle finger and go like, hey, we already have voice actors for this. We don't need your work anymore. That's fucking wild. That's wild. They're destroying everything.
So voice acting, motion capture, you name it.
No.
But all of this doesn't add up at all. In 2023, there was the Hollywood actors strike by SAG-AFTRA, and after 118 days of striking, when they received a proposal from the studios they were striking against, they held a vote, with 78% of members voting in favor of taking the contract. On the other hand, 22% voted no, and there were some very heavy criticisms to accepting the agreement a bit too early. But hey, that's what a union is. You vote on your rights, because everyone has a say. Hell, the same day the voice actor of Capitano made his tweet, SAG-AFTRA had held a vote for people who are in audio commercials, and they were able to approve their contract with a vote of 96.9% saying yes and 3.1% saying no.
So why don't they just fucking make the votes for the voice acting and everything else as well? Like all the voice actors want to do the voting. They're like, can we just please finish this? Can we be done with this? Can we continue on with our lives? Why are they not doing the voting yet?
So how is it exactly that every other facet of SAG-AFTRA could vote when they get an actual counteroffer, but voice actors are not being given that right, which is the fundamental right of a union? Like, you have to understand, there are voice actors who haven't worked for over 10 months because of this strike. They, just like
Crazy.
Erica, would receive a threatening letter if they were to work on video games. More specifically, ones that don't have this new contract that most haven't accepted.
Crazy.
So this isn't just about the existential threat of voice acting as a whole in the United States, but it's about people who are literally on the brink of being homeless, needing a job. So seeing that things have gotten so bad, did SAG-AFTRA finally decide to hold a vote and have their members decide what to do next? No. You know what they did instead? They held a Q&A on Instagram Live.
Out of all of the fucking platforms that you could have chosen to stream on, you decide on Instagram Live? This is an important, literally like the most important video game like situation in the past fucking year that hundreds upon thousands of people's of livelihoods are resting upon, and you're making a Q&A on Instagram Live. What the fuck?
Fucking hell. Yep, that's right. It featured the SAG-AFTRA Interactive Media Agreement Negotiating Committee Chair, Sarah Malek, and Chief Negotiator Duncan Crabtree Ireland, who also served as Chief Negotiator for the Hollywood strike back in 2023. This was all in an effort to discuss and answer questions about the video game negotiations and the strike, hoping to maybe reassure some people who were panicking about the fact that their profession might get deleted tomorrow. And as you might have guessed, this was an utter disaster.
Disappointed?
That was extremely tone deaf
Disaster?
and really showed us that the people who are doing this are not doing it in the best interest of voice actors.
Absolutely
they couldn't
not.
care less. This live Q&A was from the 28th of May, and someone uploaded the whole thing on Vimeo.
my
One of the biggest concerns from voice actors is the fact that their jobs are literally being replaced by overseas actors, especially in the UK.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Dude, voice actors getting changed is a big fucking deal because their entire story, their entire vibe is based off of the voice that comes from the character. The moment that they're gonna swap, people are not gonna want to have the old one back because after a few years, they're gonna be used to the new one. So they're not gonna be able to get it back anymore. It's over.
That question was asked, and here's how they answered it. As you listen to this, think of yourself as a voice actor who hasn't worked in 10 months. Is it comforting? Let's see.
Next question. We've heard that at least 8 AAA union games have exited the union since the beginning of May. What steps are you taking to prevent the union from losing more jobs? Well, I'll
Let them vote. Let them actors vote. Ugh, no more meetings. Please don't discount how serious this is. Agreed. Let us vote.
start on this and then Sarah
Dude, so many people are like, yo, let us vote, man.
can weigh in if she wants to. I have heard from certain back channel sources about some games that have either threatened to or started casting, for example,
What?
outside the United States or with non-union
What?
workers. The fact of the matter is that it is possible for some of these games to shift to casting and production outside the U.S. As far as producing in the U.S., if there are signatory producers who are doing games non-union, then you can expect us to take legal action to address that because they're
What the fuck?
not entitled to do that.
They're not entitled to do that. I want to beat the shit out of this guy. Holy moly.
But I think the most important step that we're taking is looking to try and reach an agreement.
What is wrong with you?
But reaching an agreement doesn't involve just capitulating to the employer position. I'll remind everybody that there was a point not too long ago where there were some people who said that we should just accept buyouts as part of the deal and make that deal. And right now, the last best and final that was put on the table with us does not include those buyouts because we pushed back on it. So I think that it's more nuanced than just a yes or no. And that's why we're actively engaged in communicating with the employer group in the hopes of
It's more nuanced than a yes or no, and you're actively communicating. You're not actively communicating shit.
reaching a deal quickly. That would obviously be the best
Reaching
thing
a
that we
deal
can do to help
quickly.
make sure
You can
that,
deal with these balls in
that
your mouth.
production resumes and continues quickly.
Yeah, so if I had to give an example to someone as to what corporate speak sounds like, absolute corporate mumbo jumbo, I would just use this clip as an example. And yeah, don't
Look
worry.
at this. Look. Let them vote. Let the actors 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 vote. And and they're all different people. Every single one of them is different people. And more than 50% of the chat basically is like, let them vote. What the fuck?
Sarah will echo the same thing. It's like, hey, we're being replaced by people overseas. Can we get a move on? Yeah, but you know, this is really about the agreement, and we'll take our time examining the agreement, and we'll get back to you, and hopefully, you know, we'll get to a point where we're happy. It's like, come on, dude, get to the point. I'm about to be homeless. And just so you're aware, this guy right here on the left, yeah, Duncan, he makes over $1 million a year working for SAG-AFTRA.
So this is why, chat. There you go. There you go. Greedy motherfucking pieces of shit in these companies that literally go and fucking stick a straw in poor people's fucking brains, and they're just like, you know, get every single last bit of that fucking sanity out of there, bro. Get every single bit of fucking money that you can get. This is why they don't fucking care about their workers. They care about the best deals that they can make with other companies. Because in the end, chat, it doesn't matter how many people's lives he's gonna ruin, because new voice actors are going to exist in the SAG-AFTRA union in the future anyways, because it is required. It's required. It's not a fucking, you can't decide to not be part of SAG-AFTRA. You can't. If you're part of the US and you're doing voice acting, like any type of fucking acting work that is required, or that you need to do in like the US that has connections with SAG-AFTRA, you require to apply for SAG-AFTRA, because if not, you get blacklisted. And then you can't fucking find work anymore. So what these guys do is that they know that SAG-AFTRA is going to be making money maybe in 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Those contracts are going to benefit them, not the workers, them, SAG-AFTRA, the company, right? It's gonna benefit them. So what they're doing is that they don't care. They don't give a shit about the current voice actors. They don't. Why would they? Because they're not making the money as much as they could be making if the companies do actually accept these, like, you know, contracts and shit, these negotiations. So they're just gonna get rid of them. The current ones can go suck a dick. They can go find a different thing to do in life, because hey, you're not good enough, you know, and fuck being a voice actor in America, I guess. Move to Europe, whatever. But they're not going to be caring about them anymore, because in the long run, it's going to make the company, SAG-AFTRA, more money than if they don't get the sign and just continue working on. That's so stupid. But it is what it is. It's just greed.
Sarah, on the other hand, also works for SAG.
It's
I'm
just
sure
greed.
her salary is amazing. And even if it wasn't, she doesn't have to worry about not being able to find a job. As a voice actor who hasn't worked for 10 months, who's literally struggling to make ends meet, hearing these two talk about this must feel like the most out of touch thing ever.
Yeah,
how can you sit here and so confidently say we're going to keep the strike going without taking in any points of feedback while you make $1 million a year? It just doesn't really feel
ridiculous.
Right. It feels weird. You can see some comments here saying 12 gaming companies have already left. Let's please end this soon so more don't leave. 500 roles that could have gone to SAG actors. Another person says let the actors vote. Another one says let the actors vote. It's a very unfortunate situation. SAG-AFTRA also posted this on Instagram, showing what they want changed in the last best and final offer. There are 3 essential items here, right? And the first one, the most important one that they really want to show you first here in the slideshow, is that they don't like companies generating new materials with replicas during a strike. Just so you know, AI replicas are actually part of this contract. Voice actors are allowed to consent if they're getting paid for it. So this right here really bothers SAG-AFTRA because it takes away power from them when they're striking. In fact, during the end of the Q&A, you can hear the pain in the voices of these two people when someone has a question about Side Letter 6 projects. Here's how the Coalition of Dubbing Actors explains this. Remember this name because they will be very important later on. But in a nutshell, they say, it's a serious flaw in the SAG-AFTRA video game contract that allows projects that have begun production before a strike was called to continue without disruption. This coalition then says, we strongly urge all actors to avoid auditioning for and working on SL6 projects. But here's the thing, this is in the contract, and it wasn't talked about enough when the entitled voice actors were losing their minds on Twitter. So SAG really don't want another SL6 situation because it gives them less power during strikes, and they're willing to sacrifice.
oh, we don't want you to work. That's not allowed. You're not allowed to keep your job. You can't make money when we're on strike. That's not allowed. You know, you might as well just start working at a McDonald's during this time, because man, I don't care about your livelihood, but our company makes more money, so you better fucking figure it out, bitch.
This current strike, just to hear back on this. Reason 2, which is fair dispute resolution, and reason 3, which is close the loophole. You can read these for yourself, but these 3 right here are why this strike is still ongoing and why they're risking everything. But most voice actors are already very happy with this right here. Everything that's in green that we already discussed, these 3 things aren't that.
It's all in green. It's all in green. The only thing that's not in green is TV and animation and film. It's, bro, what the fuck? Like, it's not even part of the game section anymore. Most people that are having issues are in the game section right now. What?
That big of a deal for them. That's the problem. But when you're making
That's
$1 million,
wild. Does this use AI? Digital replica, chat. This digital replica, that is AI. Digital replica, right? So they're saying that for games, it's you know, consent is required. So that means that the voice actor is going to have to give consent to the company, like, hey, you know, is it allowed for us to make a digital replica for you when you're sick, when you're unable to come to work, whenever you know, this and this and this and that. Basically, what happened is that they got the okay for everything, but for TV and animation and film, right? Because of the fact that what's it called, like, people are going to be required at all times. With games, it's a little bit different because most games are not live series games. They're not running at all times. That's why Genshin is having so many like troubles recently, because of the fact that it's a live game. But a lot of like TVs and films and stuff need to be recorded in the moment. So there's a few things where it's like negotiable, for instance, because it can be suspended like during a strike with consent, right? So they can basically say, hey, it's negotiable to have AI voice acting during strikes, or they can still work during strikes, even under SAG AFTRA. But they don't think that this is good enough. They're like, no, you're not going to do that. You're not going to do that. We're going to make sure that they're not going to be able to get AI stuff. But the TV and animation section is like, hey, dude, we need to fucking get this shit done. Because if they don't have it done, they're not going to be able to drop the show, the episode, right? They're not going to be able to do their stuff. Can you imagine if this was a thing in Japan and you would be watching a weekly anime show and your fucking voice actor would just be muted for 13 minutes of the episode because they had 13 minutes worth of text and voice lines, and they're just not saying anything? Can you imagine that? That's what this is basically, because TV and animation can't fucking do that, where their voice actor just doesn't fucking exist for half of the episode, for 30 minutes, 20 minutes. So yeah, this is why this is already so well done. And this is only during strikes either. I don't know what PCAP or DR covered means. I have no idea what this means. No fucking clue. I'm gonna assume that this is like digital report covered or something, right? DR. No idea. Nah, bro, this only happens because it's the US. It is. It does. This is only happening because it's in the US. Absolutely. In Japan, this would never happen. Yeah, but at the same time, you have to look at it differently, right? In Japan, that country, same thing with China, same thing with Korea and a lot of other places. Those countries really fucking love art artists. They love actors. They love, like, it's seen as a very respectable job there. Because even if you tell people on the streets, like, oh, I'm a mangaka, they're gonna be like, oh, you know, Yamamoto sensei or something, right? Everybody is respected no matter the job that you have. But in America, that is not really seen as like a respectable job in a sense, right? In China, they're not going to be doing that type of AI bullshit. They're going to be like deciding to make, how do you say that? They're going to do research on AI in their own like spaces and stuff. But I cannot see it happening in the future where companies in China, at least the ones that are very well respected, and Japan and Korea, are going to start using AI randomly. That's not going to happen because their workers are respected. But the American ones is a little bit different, because with America, the only thing that they're thinking about is profit, not how can we have good relationships with our, like, you know, workers and the people that we're, you know, employing. It's completely completely different. Their vibes are completely different. The entirety of America has just run around profit ever since it existed. Ever since America became a thing, their entire vibe was just profit. How can we sell this? How can we make people buy this? How do I make them buy products and cars and milk and cheese and blah, 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 right? How do we make them fatter so that they require more health insurance so that they, you know, it's a loop. And that's how you can also see it with SAG-AFTRA as well. A lot of their like ruling is based off of how can we make as much money for the company as possible. It's really sad, or for the union, I guess. So yeah, let's continue with the video. Kind of fucking insane, I'm not gonna lie.
Year, you might not be able to see that. Anyway, during this Q&A, Mr. $1 Million here had this to say about a question.
Mr. $1 Million.
But I just want to say, whether you agree with or disagree with the committee or any individual member of the committee or whatever, this committee, these members have devoted a vast amount of their personal lives to fighting for this contract. And they've done it not because it's their paid job to do it or for any other reason than because they care about helping make sure that our members are protected and that this contract is the contract that members deserve and that we achieve the best possible contract at the table. So I just want...
What is he saying? Yeah, the best possible contract for you, not the workers.
To everybody out there, you know, it's totally great to agree or disagree with the committee. You know, this is a union where we welcome differences of opinion, but I hope that everybody will really recognize and respect the commitment and contribution that your committee...
What commitment and contribution? What?
members have made on your behalf as part of doing this process.
You hear that?
None!
That it is okay, even welcomed, to disagree with the committee currently negotiating this contract on behalf of all union members. Very beautiful.
They are. They're disagreeing. Every single person is disagreeing.
Beautiful. I mean, SAG-AFTRA is a democracy after all, right? Well, no, not really. The negotiating committee has its own agenda, and they're not willing to listen to anyone who doesn't share their own opinion.
What?
As we're about to find out in numerous conversations that they've had in a private Discord.
Oh, hey, hi, welcome to SAG-AFTRA. It's so nice to see you today. Thank you. You can go further on that way. It's the room where you can, you know, find the representative. You can go along that way, guys. It's fine. Yeah, you'll be able to find the representative that way, and they're gonna help you with your oh, you know, let me go check it out. Wait, oh. What the fuck?
All right, so
the exit's that way.
The Coalition of Dubbing Actors, otherwise known as CODA, according to their website, they have spent decades creating quality voice acting to localize amazing foreign projects so that they can be experienced and enjoyed by audiences across the
Discord
world.
Docky.
That's wonderful. But if you were to join their private Discord server, you would never guess that that's what they do. No, instead you'd think that it's some sort of radicalization pipeline that's meant to make you think that this strike can go on forever. This server has hundreds of members, mostly people who are new, but many who are in SAG-AFTRA as union members. Here you'll see many messages from people on the negotiating committee, as well as people who are also present on Blue Sky and who spend a lot of time pushing the same ideas there. Starting us off, here's a message from a high-ranking negotiating committee member, garnering a lot of reactions from people in the server. Here's what they had to say very shortly after receiving the last, best, and final offer. They've given a last best offer. Next may come a last best and final offer. Next, they may try to walk away. The selfish elites will claim they can leave forever because they don't believe we are worth anything. Disney and Warner Bros. Can do that. They don't make games, they just license them. Formosa and Blindlight, which are recording studios, will be in danger of going out of business, which is why VoiceWorks broke away and why Blindlight just found a way to get a game on the to be announced without having to sign themselves. Insomniac and the other plot-driven studios will finish their SL6 games and then be faced with asking actors to scab. Voice actors like Jen and Troy will likely do that out of spite and selfishness, but the studio's reputations will suffer and they will lose access to their on-camera celebrities. I just want to point out, this is a negotiating committee member calling out to...
Why does he look like that? Oh my god!
Very well-known voice actors in the industry, okay? All right. They continue. Call of Duty, Fortnite, and all of the purely celebrity-driven content will have to come back. They've built their business model on it, and on-camera celebrities are not going to work non-union during a strike. So we may have to see how long they will hold out while we continue to make money with the interim. We will likely update the interim with new understanding of the tech in the next few months to lure in more games, and we'll see who wins. That is my best logic-driven approach without the fear-mongering weighted in. So yeah, this feels like a motivational talk to people who are worried about losing their jobs, while calling out two very well-known voice actors by name, as well as saying a very funny sentence here: we will continue to make money with the interim, referring to the studios who've already signed the interim agreement. It's funny to me because voice acting in video games pays like nothing, and these roles in particular with the new interim agreement are very far and few in between. Oof. But you have to remember, even though there's hundreds of people in this Discord, many of them are new voice actors, ones that are up and coming, and they might be a bit naive. I mean, you have a negotiating committee member here telling you all these things. They must be right. They're a veteran.
Totally.
In fact, in this one's particular case, they used to be a board member of SAG-AFTRA.
Oh my God, guys.
About? Well, meet Zeke Alton. But before we do, we need to talk about the AI voice acting company by the name of Ethovox. The only premium voice service created by actors and empowered by AI. They claim to be an AI company that is ethically sourced.
Not the
Interestingly
AI.
enough, SAG-AFTRA signed an agreement with Ethovox on October 30th, 2024, a few months after this video game strike had even begun. But
what the fuck do you... What? I'm done. I'm done with this shit. I'm fucking done with this shit.
What's the most interesting part of all this? Zeke used to be on the board of Ethovox.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
And as his description says, he's a professional voice actor, NEVA advisory board member, and former SAG-AFTRA board member. And now he's back at SAG-AFTRA as one of the members of the negotiating committee for the strike, even posting official information directly from SAG-AFTRA in channels like Strike Talk Official. My source actually tells me that Zeke isn't just back to be a negotiating committee for SAG, he's actually back to be a full-time board member at SAG-AFTRA. This, of course, only makes him and the union look worse. Another name you'll see a lot in these conversations is Kyle McCarley. He is not someone on the negotiating committee of SAG-AFTRA, but he is someone who shares Zeke's views almost one-to-one. This can be seen on his Blue Sky account, with his profile picture being the SAG-AFTRA on strike icon and dedicating almost his entire feed to the strike, even being retweeted many times by our friend Serena. This message right here gives us kind of a glimpse of the mentality Kyle, Zeke, and many others in this Discord have when he said, and I'm still sitting here thinking, blow the whole contract up. They don't want to give us what we want? Let them walk. Kill the deal entirely. Interim becomes the new IMA, and when they inevitably come crawling back to us, they give us the terms we should have gotten from them 10 months ago.
Yeah, it doesn't work like that.
But it doesn't work like that. I mean, not easily anyway.
It doesn't work like that.
So yeah, of course, this can be seen as a lighthearted message, but
what do you mean? Lighthearted message. Oh yeah, let's just kill the deal entirely. Let's just make everybody lose their jobs for 10 months. And then afterwards, they're gonna come crawling back to us. Totally right, surely right. Totally right. They're gonna come crawling right back, making sure that we're gonna get all our jobs back. Totally.
The tone here doesn't really change in the next messages either. And it's this idea that they hold all the cards, that the studios need.
They think that they're holding all the power, which is wild to me. They're like, oh, dude, it's all us, man.
More than they could ever need the studios, when that is not the case. Many jobs are being lost as we speak to overseas actors, and this is a very irresponsible thing to think, even as a joke in such a serious setting. Here we can see a voice actor asking a question and tagging Zeke, saying, could I have a suspicion confirmed? If someone is FICOR and advertising/working on non-union work during a strike, that can affect their ability to work union in the future, right? Now, just as a reminder, being FICOR means that you're kind of part of SAG-AFTRA, but you're just giving up all the benefits of being union in order to work non-union work without consequences. And even though you're technically under SAG-AFTRA, SAG-AFTRA sees you as a scab, which is wonderful, but you can still qualify for health insurance if you're working union projects. So the whole point of becoming FICOR is to be able to work non-union work even during a strike. But this voice actor is wondering, does this affect their ability to work union jobs in the future? Because they can work both, union and non-union. Zeke says it would be considered scabbing and they would never be allowed back into the union. The union cannot prevent a company from hiring them in the future, but union developers have been asking for lists of people not to hire. Let me just repeat that one more time.
What?
Union developers have been asking for lists of people not to hire. He continues, of course, that's illegal and unrealistic, but it's a small community. We're all responsible for our actions, and flaunting a strike is more serious than I think some performers understand.
You know what this fucking reminds me of, chat? You know what this reminds me of? fucking children. This reminds me of like elementary and preschool, bro. This reminds me of the times where I was like fucking 7 years old and we were playing in the fucking like school grounds during break, and it was like, oh, you're not allowed to play with us. Yeah, like we have a friend group and it's closed right now, and we're not really allowing anybody else in at the moment. Yeah, you know, you can go play with those other kids. They would like some friends. What the fuck? What do you mean a list of people not to hire? What is this? What the fuck is it? Dude.
They'll be severely limiting their career opportunities in the future to only the kind of games that are actively looking to gather up actors' digital identities. So look, when you become FICOR, okay, SAG-AFTRA tries to stop you multiple times. It's like asking a bank to withdraw $1 million cash. They'll try to stop you multiple times because they don't have the money. They gotta get it from the vault. And usually when you become FICOR, it's already almost impossible to become union again. This message from Zeke signals that yes, I mean, they're doing what they signed up for. They're FICOR. They can work non-union jobs even during a strike. But there might be some consequences, even though it's not written in the contract. Like, admitting this is crazy. The fact that there are union developers hoping to get a list of people not to hire.
That is
now, of course, he does say it's illegal and unrealistic, but I mean, then he says, but it's a small community. I can't conclude anything from this, but I do have a feeling that maybe, just maybe, if you sign up to be FICOR to work non-union jobs during a strike, then you might get discriminated against when it comes to taking on union jobs in the future, which is kind of crazy. The voice actor chimes in and says, I mean, I would assume it's the same rules as pre-strike. If you're non-union, you're free to work whatever you want. To which Kyle says, if you're not a member, you are not beholden to any union rules, including strike rules. However, working non-union during a strike does undermine its efforts every bit as much as promoting that work does. The reason to withhold that work or not promote it is to stand in solidarity with your fellow actors, but nothing requires you to do so, other than the very slim potential for jeopardizing your future membership if that's something you want to pursue someday.
So it's like, hey, you know, just because the company is like striking and everyone else is striking, that automatically means that you should strike too, no matter your personal feelings, because hey, you know, you gotta be nice to your fellow actors. You gotta be nice to your fucking company. Hey, dude, I'm just saying, maybe you should strike too, because otherwise people are gonna hate you.
So Cal comes in, mostly agrees with Zeke, but does so in a more level-headed way, with no mention of some sort of blacklist, only saying there's a very slim potential chance of you not being able to join SAG-AFTRA if you want to in the future, which is still ridiculous, by the way, because you're non-union. Why should a strike even matter to you? Zeke then comes in again and says it can be considered scabbing. If the union is actively working to flip a game like Genshin, an actual working non-union would be in violation. Also, if the non-union games turns out to be one that was previously union and the producer pulled a fast one, it can still be considered scabbing under the current strike order. The only thing the union can do is to note it and tag you as someone who is never allowed to join in the future. So Zeke comes in again, undoes everything Kyle said, okay, like that level head. Responds down the toilet and reiterates, guys, if you work a non-union job during a strike, you'll never be able to join SAG in the future. And also, if you're non-union working on a game like Genshin Impact, also you're in violation. This is actually really funny to me because according to Zeke, Karina, the voice actor behind Paimon, is someone who is never allowed to join SAG-AFTRA again because they voiced Paimon for months during the strike as a FICOR member. But I'm sure not all rules are applied equally in SAG-AFTRA. Totally it's an amazing, very fair organization.
Cult shit. No, it is.
Weird enough. Let's get back to Erica. When she complained to her fans that she was receiving threatening letters from SAG and that she really wanted to get back to this, the fact that she didn't even vote for the strike to begin, the Coda Discord took notice. Here's what they had to say.
What? No, no fucking way. No, no.
Here's what they had to say. A voice actor by the name of Marin M. Miller said, it's very sad that Erica has failed to meet this moment in a way that supports the people around her. Oh, someone above said, right, that's because they're composing acting industry fan fiction.
What?
It doesn't have to make sense.
What?
Cal McCarley said, single most damaging thing any one person has done to the strike efforts, in my opinion.
These people are grown-ups. They're in their fucking 40s. What in heaven's name? What is this? Can we all just do our fucking job? Erica literally just wants to do her job. She just wants to fucking voice act a character for the game that she's paid to fucking voice act in. What is this? Oh, it's very sad that Erica has failed to meet this moment in a way that supports people around her. Yeah, I'm so disappointed in her. She's damaging our strike. What?
Can we just read that again real quick? Single most damaging thing any one person has done to the strike efforts, in my opinion. Really? I mean, I think you're insulting Corinna right now by saying this. Really? Erica, really? This video right here literally ended the strike. Okay, this video right here ruined voice acting reputation for generations.
Fuck.
And you're gonna blame Erica. Interesting.
Dude.
Then another member of the negotiating committee chimes in, Lindsay. She says,
Oh my God.
we're just trying to fight for AI protections, something that can't be done on an individual level.
You're not. You're not.
When Mifuyu makes a digital replica of her
Oh my God, I'm gonna fucking... I'm gonna snap.
character and never hires her again, she's going to wish she had a horde of union lawyers to go after them.
I'm going to snap.
Look, these messages can be interpreted in a million different
I'm gonna Marvel snap.
ways. All I'll say is that it's a shame. The fact that one of their colleagues for the last 10 months has not been able to voice a role they enjoy so much that means a lot to them, while being under the threat of being replaced, sucks. I mean, there's no other way to say it. It sucks to be in Erica's shoes. And I'm not seeing one message here that is showing empathy. It's also ridiculous
Not
to me
a
how they
singular
chose
message.
to, on purpose, right, blind themselves from the entitled voice actors from my last video. Yet people openly blacklisting Jacob, calling him out,
Yeah,
tweeting about his
what?
finances, and publicly blacklisting him from projects. And
This
these
is
people are convinced that Erica
wild.
venting about the fact that she can't work on a character she loves due to this strike is the single most damaging thing any person has done to the strike effort.
Totally,
That's
right?
crazy to me. It's further proof that we're really in an echo chamber and that if someone agrees with you, they can do no wrong. But anyway, we're now back to the message that I showed you at the beginning of the video. Yes, the person who sent it was Zeke Alton, talking about how some outside parties have engaged in a campaign to influence performers and we need to address it. Why is he saying that? What does he even mean? Well, at some point, Zeke said, SL6 Elder Scrolls is sending out auditions again, let's all tell Blindlight to F off. So Blindlight isn't a developer, it's a Los Angeles-based company.
Wait, is Twitch dead again? Is Twitch fucking dead again? Fuck. Hello? Hello, Dad? Dad? No! Not again! No! SAG going after Mifu. SAG let Mifu vote. No! Oh man, are we back? Are we back? Is it working? Saved. Are we back? God damn, brothers. Damn, we're back. Let's go. Okay. My bad. Something happened. I don't know what happened, but it crashed. So let's go back a little bit in time, and then we can watch the video again. Saved. Make sure to refresh your page, Chato. I think we're gonna end after this this video. Sadly, Twitch is having some issues, but I also think that my PCs might be overheating too. So we're gonna end after this one, okay? Yeah. Okay, we continue.
Even mean? Well, at some point, Zeke said, SL6 Elder Scrolls is sending out auditions again, let's all tell Blindlight to F off. So Blindlight isn't a developer, it's a Los Angeles-based company providing Hollywood production services to the video game industry. So the Elder Scrolls 6 hires them to do the recording for them, kind of like how Genshin Impact hires studios in the US to do recording for them. They're not directly involved. The Elder Scrolls is an SL6 project. It started before the strike. It's perfectly legal within SAG-AFTRA contract terms to work them without any repercussions, without being a scab. But Zeke's over here saying, let's tell them to F off.
Why?
Even though it's perfectly legal to take it.
That's
a while
completely
later,
fine.
Zeke says, with all the angry rhetoric about how employers are going to walk away from us and the fear tactics used to get people to accept a bad deal, today, Blindlight put out an audition for a game.
What do you mean the fear tactics used to get people to accept a bad deal? The fucking worker is the one that decides what is a bad deal or not. in the end, if it's SAG-AFTRA that always decides their fucking, like, their employees' income, then that means that you could be giving their employees a bad deal, and all of the other money is going to SAG-AFTRA. What does that even mean? Isn't it in the employee's hands to decide if a contract is preferable for them or not? What kind of bullshit is this?
Under the tiered budget agreement. Let me
That's
say that again for
wild.
the cheap seats. Blindlight has agreed to put out a game with our AI protections. Tell me again what these companies won't
A Haim, right? This a Haim can't even fucking double check his typing.
do. So look, I'm very happy for them, but this isn't the interim agreement. It's the tiered budget independent interactive media agreement. Employers who still want to sign voice actors during the strike must either use this contract or the interim agreement. And the reason why this contract exists is because it allows studios with less budget to pay voice actors less. And if they have a bigger budget, they have to pay voice actors more. But yeah, although minimal, it does have clauses for artificial intelligence, as Zeke said. One important thing to keep in mind though is that the cutoff date to being able to use this contract is in 2026, which makes it that much more important for SAG to finish negotiations. Otherwise, even this beloved contract of Zeke will not be applicable anymore. However, what we need to understand here is that this is just one game, not all games moving forward. But it also doesn't really make much sense to me. When voice actors were having a meltdown on Twitter, they were told, hey, listen, the studios that Genshin Impact is hiring have AI protections built into their contract.
Yeah.
They said, no, this is not enough. Genshin Impact, the studio has to sign the interim agreement, otherwise we're not happy. So in the case of
I'm gonna go crazy.
Elder Scrolls 6, doesn't Bethesda have to sign the agreement, not Blindlight? And in this case, doesn't that mean the studio hiring Blindlight has signed the tiered budget agreement? Doesn't really make much sense, right? I mean, things in the strike barely do. But what I really want you to see is the messages that come afterwards.
Oh
The
no.
voice actor says, also, to be honest, I would rather have no deal and have the producers walk away and go non-union or elsewhere than to have a deal, because at least then we would be covered by the law. So I'd rather call their bluff. To which Zeke says, I hope enough people show up and express that, because we expect a wave of take the deal votes. Okay, let's just take a step back here, all right? This is someone who is a complete extremist saying, I'd rather have no work at all if it means that I can't work under a union contract. Something that most voice actors who are already financially suffering after 10 months of no work would completely disagree with. And then you have someone on the negotiating committee saying, I hope enough people show up and express that, because we expect a wave of take the deal votes. This is a negotiating committee member openly saying that they don't want people to vote yes on taking the deal if they ever hold a vote on the final, last, and best offer. This is a clear agenda as a member of the negotiating committee, but it actually gets way worse when you really think about it. So remember how only 27% of eligible voters actually voted in favor of starting the video game strike? This totaled around 34,687 members. We have a negotiating committee member out here trying to influence hundreds of people to vote no to the next vote.
No. So you're telling me that they were literally like threatened into voting, or just not voting at all? Because if they had voted, if the rest of the people voted, that would have made it that they were placed on SAG-AFTRA's radar of possible do not employ list, because the fucking representatives wanted them to vote, so they were forced to vote.
Regarding the final, last, and best offer.
This
if that's
is
not
crazy.
Vote manipulation, I don't know what is.
Yeah, it's vote manipulation.
Weird. Do you understand why this is ridiculous? Why I'm making this video?
That's
you are a negotiator. You try to get the best deal. And then when the vote comes in, you shut your mouth and you let your union members decide what's best for them.
Exactly.
But here we see that there's a very clear agenda, and it's alarming. This catastrophe doesn't end here though. After Joe had released his video
No, there's more. There's more.
explaining the strike, the Coda Discord had a lot to say about it. A voice actor posted
What?
the video saying, welp, Joe made a video, to which Kyle McCarley replied with, barely scratched the surface of this, but I don't like him saying that Hoyo isn't struck. referring to Hoyoverse games like Genshin Impact, Zenless Zone Zero,
But
and Honkai
he's
Star
not-
Rail.
they're not.
Calvin continues and says, I do love the part where he breaks down the fact that a union agreement would end their work stoppage, that they absolutely have the resources to do so, and that many cast members would have qualified for healthcare on Genshin alone. Because he further explains, the issue I have with that definition is largely one of semantics. But union members are striking the entire video game industry. We're not striking specific companies, we're striking every game that hasn't signed an interim, with the unfortunately necessary legal exception for side letter 6. And I don't like that he kicks off a 30-minute video with, the strike doesn't apply to Hoyo, because yes it does. And if anyone chooses to tune out early, they're gonna miss all the explaining he does.
But it doesn't. It's not an American company. What are they not understanding? No, it does not. It does not fall under the same regulations and rules that companies in the US have.
Zeke then says it's not all accurate, but there's more good than bad there. So again, there's a lot of new, young, impressionable people joining this Discord, and it really does make me think, are Kyle and Zeke intentionally misleading them, or can they really not read one simple article from SAG-AFTRA themselves? When the strike started on July 26, 2024, SAG-AFTRA very specifically said, the 10 companies facing the strike are Activision Productions Inc., Blindlight LLC, Disney Character Voices Inc., Electronic Arts Productions Inc., Epic Games Inc., Formosa Interactive LLC, Insomniac Games Inc., Take-Two Productions Inc., VoiceWorks Productions Inc., and Warner Bros. Games Inc.
Where's Hoyoverse, guys? Where's Mifuyu? I don't see them. Am I blind? Do I maybe require some more new prescription glasses? What is this?
There was no mention of an industry-wide strike. There was no mention of a contract strike. This is a strike that began, and as far as we know, still is about these 10 companies. They're negotiating the last best and final offer with a coalition formed by these 10 companies. Now, I don't know if Kyle is misinformed or maybe spent too much time on Blue Sky, but this has never been an industry-wide strike. This has never been a strike against Genshin or anything else other than those 10 studios, period. You can even see this on SAG-AFTRA's own website. I had to use a VPN to access this. On October 15th, 2024, they had made an update. And again, they said the convenience bargaining group includes Activision, Blindlight, etc. No mention of Genshin, no mention of an industry-wide strike, none of that. These people are role-playing. They think they're the main character or something. And that's what's so dangerous about it. Now, of course, I can't get their side of the story because I doubt they'll reply to a DM from me. And if I were to give them the benefit of the doubt, I'd say, oh, they're a very passionate bunch who truly think that they're fighting for their own rights. And you know what? I hope they get those rights, but they're doing it in such an irresponsible way while disregarding tens of thousands of performers and voice actors in the video game industry.
The poor voice actors, man,
who are on the negotiating committee are very irresponsible with how they share information and how they're so openly trying to manipulate the vote. There's no other way to say this. There's no benefit of the doubt here. He was literally calling on people to vote no, all while people are out there losing their jobs, unable to pay rent, unable to afford anything because they're thinking they're striking for the betterment of their own industry, when in reality, it's being handled by a bunch of irresponsible, entitled voice actors who are threatening to ruin everything. Innocent, reasonable voice actors are being hurt here, and they're getting very tired of this. After that disastrous Instagram live stream, Capitano's voice actor quote tweeted his last tweet and said, since receiving the last best final offer, SAG's only update to membership was a half-hour IG live for the public. Members weren't even emailed. Where do we now stand, SAG?
What? You're not even in contract with your members? What the fuck is this? What?
SAG-AFTRA, we are now heading towards an impasse that will kill all union video games. Paying members deserve the right to vote. He was getting tired of this, and he wasn't the only one who spoke up. Sam Slade, the voice actress behind Ambi from Zenless Zone Zero and Topaz from Honkai Star Rail, as well as many other roles, hadn't once made a statement about the strike until now. She said, I've been careful to not say too much during the strike because I'm frankly exhausted with how actors are treating each other and I don't want to deal with it. But this is about more than just us now. Union and non-union jobs are leaving and we'd be lucky if they came back. I support the strike's core purpose to establish—
See? Union and non-union jobs are leaving and we'd be lucky if they came back. Because they're not. It's not going to happen. It is completely out of the fucking point. Like, if a replaced voice actor would get replaced again once they're back in union, once they're back at work, that makes no sense. That would not be possible anymore. Like, dude, you had your chance. You fucking... This is like applying for a job, getting accepted, and then crumpling up the acceptance paper, spitting in your fucking worker's face, and then leaving. And then somebody else gets your job and you're like, actually, people shy, I want to come back. What? No. Are you out of your mind? I already have that spot filled. You can figure it out. Go get a different job. That's wild. And SAG-AFTRA is expecting that this is actually going to happen?
Establish a contract for union work based on consent and compensation that will influence non-union work in the future. I've read the damn offer we have right now. Other actors have read it. Other lawyers have read it. We have what we asked for. And we're risking it all on loopholes that we don't trust the SAG lawyers. We insist are protectors to protect us. If an employer plays dirty, employers can play dirty in non-union work too, and that's a risk many of us take every day. Last time I checked, SAG animation, dubbing, and all of the non-union work floating around doesn't have protections anywhere close to the deal that we have. The commercial contract just got their contract. If the bargaining partners walk, their new projects will be non-union and we're back to square one with whatever protections we can scavenge from existing contracts like SL6 games, and crossing our fingers that the newly non-union contracts don't play dirty, except we won't have SAG lawyers on our side to protect us. I can't vote or attend meetings because I'm FICOR, but please, I beg our voting members to urge our negotiating committee and leadership to not prolong the strike. It's not about us anymore. Recording engineers, directors, production teams, entire studios, those are jobs that will leave and are leaving that may never come back. There are talented voice actors around the world, and it's silly to think the US is the only source of talent these games want. Please let everyone get back to work.
Holy an actual person with a brain on her head. That is wild.
She also clarifies things further, emphasizing that this post isn't about Hoyo Games, it's about the current interactive media agreement strike and the greater industry that it affects. I'm not here for drama. I'm also not a union member, so please don't refer to me as one. It wouldn't be fair to my union colleagues. Also, if this thread ends up in a video covering the strike or whatever, hi YouTube. Hey Sam, glad to see that you're a good sport. It's very refreshing, especially after what we've been through in the last video. The last thing she said was, but Sam, where's your source on games leaving? Gestures to everything. Sam, how do you know they'll go non-union if they walk? To which he says, when a contract expires, the parties are no longer beholden to it. They will have zero obligation to sign another if they don't want to. So this is getting so bad that it's forced people like Sam, who are FICO, or hell, some non-union actors too, to speak up about this. Pressure was mounting, not just from consumers, but performers too. So SAG-AFTRA all of a sudden on June 7th said, hey, we're doing a meeting on June 9th. You can join IRL or through Zoom. Voice actors were finally hoping to be able to hold a vote so that they can finally express what they think. What ended up happening though was completely unexpected and came out of nowhere, leaving them even more confused. Some didn't even know whether to celebrate or be worried. According to my source, during the Zoom meeting, SAG-AFTRA leadership spent a long time ass-kissing their performers, thanking them for their efforts during the strike. And then, as everyone was expecting some sort of a vote, SAG-AFTRA leadership announces that, hey guys, don't worry, a tentative agreement has been reached with the
What do you mean?
Studios. The strike will be ending soon.
What the fuck do you mean?
Now, of course, most people were very relieved to hear this. Many went into this meeting.
What do you mean relieved? They didn't get to vote. They didn't get to vote. What the fuck? Bro, that's like the CEO of a company and your fucking like boss coming together and meeting together and asking, oh, you know, what fucking, you know, how much does this person want to get paid? And then the fucking manager just decides, oh, you know what? I'd like to pay them like $3,000 a month, but 1.5 of that is going to go to the management team. Does that sound good? And then the fucking CEO is like, yeah, that sounds good. And then the fucking handshake on it, but you as the worker don't even get to fucking decide. What do you mean? How does that work? Get scammed, buddy. That's insane.
Meeting fully expecting SAG-AFTRA to delay this strike again. So this is definitely a step in the right direction, thanks to many voice actors complaining to SAG about them delaying it this long. But this doesn't mean that things are truly back to normal.
Yeah, of course not.
There's still work to be done, and things can still go wrong. Shortly after this meeting, SAG-AFTRA tweeted out, we have reached a tentative agreement with the video game bargaining group, which includes some of the largest video game companies in the world. And we are hopeful that our video game strike will be suspended in the coming days. Linking a post on their website. Now look, before we get to that post, I want to point out that a lot of people were celebrating this. And I get why. I mean, listen, I want voice actors to get the rights they deserve too. But this was never about voice actors.
all do.
this was always about SAG-AFTRA.
SAG-AFTRA.
And I wasn't the only one. Many were wondering, okay, well, struck games are now going to be voiced again, probably if this tentative agreement gets finalized. But what about non-struck games that were affected by the strike, like any game under Hoyoverse? Among others, like for example, Destiny 2. And that's definitely a concern here. So let's take a look at what SAG-AFTRA had to say about this in their post on their website. The title is, SAG-AFTRA and video game employers reach tentative agreement on interactive media contract, National Board to review. They then say, SAG-AFTRA and the signatory video game companies, which include Activision, Blindlight, Disney Character Voice.
Again, all of the fucking companies that have nothing to do with Hoyle or the game companies that we're interested in.
Electronic Arts, Epic Games, Formosa Interactive, Insomniac Games, Take-Two Productions, and Warner Brother Games have reached a tentative agreement on terms for the interactive media contract, subject to review and approval by the National Board and ratification by the membership in the coming weeks. Specific details of the agreement will be released with the ratification materials. It is expected the terms of a strike suspension agreement will be finalized with employers soon. Until such agreement is reached, however, SAG-AFTRA members will remain on strike against these employers. SAG-AFTRA National Executive Director and Chief Negotiator Duncan Crabtree Ireland said, everyone at SAG-AFTRA is immensely grateful for the sacrifices made by video game performers and the dedication of the Interactive Media Agreement Negotiating Committee throughout these many months of the video game strike.
Yeah, so the sacrifice, you're gonna pay back your workers, right? Right? You're gonna cover for all the things that they sacrificed during these months, right?
Patience and persistence has resulted in a deal that puts in place the necessary AI guardrails that defend performers' livelihoods in the AI age alongside other important games.
What pay?
Thank you. Interactive Media Agreement Negotiating Chair Sarah El-Maleh and Chief Contracts Officer Ray Rodriguez for your hard work and advocacy in pursuit of this contract. SAG-AFTRA President Fran Drescher stated, our video game performers stood strong against the biggest employers in one of the world's most lucrative industries. Their incredible courage and persistence, combined with the tireless work of our negotiating committee, has at last secured a deal. The needle has been moved forward and we are much better off than before. As soon as this is ratified, we will roll up our sleeves and begin to plan the next negotiation. Every contract is a work in progress and progress is the name of the game. SAG-AFTRA members have been on strike against video game employers since July 26, 2024. Prior to that, SAG-AFTRA members approved the video game strike authorization in September 2023 with a 98.32% yes vote.
Yeah, with 30% of your employers voting or employees voting. That's not 98%. I'm sorry, brother.
So there you have it. This is a strike against those 10 different studios.
Yeah.
The ones that were struck from the beginning. This doesn't
So what about
include Hoyoverse and other developers that have been struck that have nothing to do with the strike.
Hoyoverse?
There are also two final steps to be reached before the strike can be officially called off. An approval by the National Board and ratification by the membership, which will take weeks. Sam Slade saw the post by SAG-AFTRA and thought, you know what, let me just share the most important details for people who don't want to read, saying, for anyone confused about what this means but don't want to read past the headline, I got you, yippee, showing part of that post on SAG-AFTRA's website. But then someone asked, could I ask how this would affect games like Hoyoverse since they're non-union and wouldn't have signed? I see people saying it doesn't make a difference, but I don't know if that would be true. Maybe Global Rule 1 would become less strict or something, I'm not sure, but so happy about this. Sam replies with, I'm not a SAG member, so I don't have answers to questions about the union's policies, sorry. An actor's decision to withhold work is a personal choice. You'd have better luck asking the actor directly. So in Sam's defense, even union actors have no idea about this because SAG-AFTRA is nothing but transparent. And this question about Global Rule 1 is very important. Global Rule 1 states, no member shall render any services or make an agreement to perform services for any employer who has not executed a basic minimum agreement with the union, which is in full force and effect in any jurisdiction in which there is a SAG-AFTRA National Collective Bargaining Agreement in place. This provision applies worldwide.
Who decided that? Who the fuck decided that? What? Dude.
Simply put, a SAG-AFTRA member must always work under a union contract around the globe. Now, it's important to note, for video game contracts,
a SAG-AFTRA member must always work under a union contract around the globe. What the fuck is this? Are they slaves? Dude, it's already crazy enough to make people like forcibly apply within the US, but it's like, hey, you know, if it's the only way to get jobs inside of that country / continent, I guess at this point, then sure, whatever. But like anywhere in the globe, what is this? What?
contracts, 80% or more are usually non-union, and SAG-AFTRA knows this, which is why for years they've never pursued someone who is in the union who was working a non-union contract. That was of course until this strike had begun. Those threatening letters that Venti's voice actor was receiving, that was because she was breaking Global Rule 1 by voicing for Genshin. This new agreement that's now being finalized only gives SAG-AFTRA even more power when it comes to employers under their jurisdiction. So one has to truly wonder, can union voice actors truly continue to work non-union projects, which are the majority of projects in video games?
Possibly
and don't even
not.
bother asking a union voice actor about this because even they don't know, okay?
Even the union voice actors are like, people are speculating that because SAG couldn't get their way, they will actually now start to enforce Global Rule 1 a lot more aggressively and not just turn a blind eye to people working non-union projects. Yeah.
Again, SAG-AFTRA is very transparent and honest. We'll only be finding this out when it's too late. If I had to sum up the sentiment here, overall, people are happy for the voice actors that were not entitled, of course, but are still mad at SAG-AFTRA for how they handled the strike and how they continue to handle themselves.
Understandably
and I'm
enough.
almost positive that the only reason they reached this tentative agreement was because of backlash from their own union members. Because as evidenced by the leaked messages we have of a couple of members in the negotiating committee, they had zero intentions of accepting this agreement. It kind of leaves you with a bitter taste in your mouth. And speaking about bitter taste in your mouth, Corinna actually recently got on a podcast for some reason.
Does it just keep getting worse?
With someone who has already laughed at the unhinged rants in the past. In it, we had a huge revelation. Paimon is not being voiced anymore. Apparently, Jacob Takanashi taking up Kinich was the final straw for Corinna, even though Corinna had very openly stated that voicing Paimon is the only reason they can afford to live and not be homeless, stating, "Thanks, Paperbag Boy, for having me." But yeah.
Wait, but didn't she also say that she hasn't been paid for Paimon's voice acting for like 3 fucking months because of SAG-AFTRA like abstaining her pay or some shit? She said that she's like struggling like crazy. Wait, what is this like double-sided story?
I make the announcement here that after John got recast, that was the final straw for me, and I told Hoyo I was not coming back to record until they signed the SAG interim agreement.
Yeah, for Mosa.
Of course, when people heard these news, they rejoiced, okay? People were celebrating like I've never seen them celebrate before. But this right here is what's worrying. Are all union actors going to follow Corinna's mentality because they'll be forced to by the Global Rule 1 being finally applied? Is every single studio on US
Wait, so they're all going to get recast?
soil meant to sign this agreement, not just the 10 companies that were struck? Unless SAG-AFTRA clarifies, we have to assume that that's the case. And if it is the case, then union voice actors will continue to be replaced by overseas talent. That is a fact. Look, in the end, all I can say is I truly want voice actors to get what they deserve.
Absolutely.
A proper contract that gives them proper rights and good compensation. But when it comes to SAG-AFTRA, we can't deny that the flaws are way too much to ignore, including hiring members of the negotiating committee that have a very clear bias, one that they're proud to showcase to people who can vote. I hope that this made things clearer to you as a consumer, but more importantly, if you're a voice actor watching or a union member, I hope you now realize that it was thanks to your pressure that SAG-AFTRA finally folded and that the negotiating committee was never truly fully on your side. Thank you so much for watching until the end. I truly wish the best for all the voice actors, except the entitled ones from the last video. And I'll see you in the next video, whenever that is. I love you so much.
Love you, Mujin. Bye. Anyway. Holy fuck, man. This entire video was insane. I'm not gonna lie, absolute banger video, Mujin. Good fucking shit. Thank you for always covering this and seriously getting all of this insane information, you know, bringing it to light, because a lot of us would not be able to do that by ourselves, and it is absolutely wonderful that you're willing to spend that shit ton amount of time to get it all together. Well done, Mujin. Good shit. Amazing video. Go support Mujin, guys. He's an amazing friend of mine. Super good YouTuber. Always gives you the facts and the proof, and it's really nice. Wow. What a situation. I will say I'm wishing that it'll be over soon, and I'm wishing that all of the VAs and SAG-AFTRA members and even non-SAG-AFTRA members, anybody that's, you know, affiliated with a union in some type of way, or, you know, getting in trouble because of the union, will be able to receive their jobs back, get back to like normal, you know, income, and not have to struggle in life anymore, because this entire situation is wild. Wow. Yeah, thank you so much for watching, YouTube Kikos. I am in shock that we're finally done with this whole striking situation, but very happy that that's the case. Hopefully it's actually done and we won't have to sit for another year till our favorite characters are gonna get forced again and they're gonna be able to get their jobs back again. Oh my god, please, I have to, please stop, please. Okay, I will see you guys again in the next one. Thank you so much, Sato. Bye bye.